Hinduism has been compared to a growing banyan tree, spreading its roots on the earth and sprouting up in many directions. In Hindu faith, there are no set parameters, no fixed rules, and no rigid schedules. Hinduism is a vastly liberal religion. In fact, it openly and fervently encourages and tolerates differences of opinion, use of discretion, and interpretation based on one's own circumstances and perceptions. At the same time, there are some strong ethical principles and rituals that characterize this religion. The great Vedas and Upanishads affirm these principles in an organized compilation. Belief in the authority of these ancient scriptures is one of the chief prerequisites of Hinduism. Although Hinduism recognizes the Vedic teachings as its basic principles, the roots of this religion go back a long way. The excavations of the Sindhu-Saraswati civilization, more commonly known as Harappan or Indus civilization, show evidence of the carvings of Shiva in his proto-form as Pasupati, the lord of all animal kingdoms, and also in the yoga asana or yoga positions. There are carvings of exuberant feminine deities which will later be known as various forms of the mother goddess Shakti. The naked figurines in meditative poses of the lotus position and standing position, that is, relaxation with self-awareness, are very similar to those later adopted by the Buddha and the Tirthankars of the Jain religion. Evidence suggests that the Saraswati and Sindhu, also known as the Indus, rivers originated at the end of the Great Ice Age about 10,000 years ago. It is believed that the colossal civilizations along this verdant belt was more widely spread than the civilizations of Egypt or Greece. The Saraswati River ran parallel to the Sindhu River about 200 miles east of it. The huge mass of land between the two great rivers developed as the Sindhu-Saraswati civilization. Names of these two rivers are mentioned repeatedly, perhaps more frequently than other rivers in the most ancient Hindu scripture, the Rig Veda. More than 1,500 cities developed on the banks of these two great rivers. Sindhu-Saraswati civilization is called the Harappan civilization after Harappa, the first of its sites excavated in 1920, followed by Mohenjo-Daro. Gujarat too shows large concentration of Harappan sites which include the important excavations of Lothal and Dholavira. The great civilizations came to end due to the gradual drying up of the Saraswati river because of some structural changes in the north at the Himalayas. New evidence with a satellite imaging by a French team has revealed the course of the prehistoric Saraswati river earlier mentioned in the Rig Veda. It was hitherto considered as myth only. One more equally ancient and great civilization was established in the south of India. This became the home of the Dravidian culture, which incorporated Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada, and other languages of this group. Dravidian culture has its own distinguished history, literature, fine arts, and spiritual heritage. The Dravidian community adopted the Hinduism emerging thought, translating it into its own languages and scripts. Later, the idol and the temple concepts of the Dravidian culture were assimilated in the emerging Hindu religion. Indeed, adaptation and modification would become the hallmark of the Hindu philosophy. Some also think that there is a link between the Sindhu-Saraswati civilization and the Dravidian culture, the exact extent of which has not been fully assessed. Others consider the Dravidian a separate ethnic entity. The acceptance of the Vedas as the supreme authority, however, eventually became the melting point of many diverse ethnic cultures towards the formation of Hinduism. The terracotta seals and the sculptures of the Sindhu-Saraswati civilization indicate the introduction of Neolithic culture, which has remained very dominant in India as seen in the temple sculptures through millennia. Advancing from the hunter's life to the agriculture and vegetarianism in India brought about the major culture pursuits. The stone cutting techniques were modified from hunting tools towards sculpture, which became a great obsession with Indian people in the past and has continued to be an artistic passion even now. A group of scientists has recently identified two circular structures at Dholavira in Kutch district of Gujarat, which they say is the first identification of a structure used for observational astronomy during the Harappan civilization. It is the first direct indication of intellectual capacity of people in the context of the civilization and their relation to astronomy. The ancient scriptures of the Hindu religion, the Vedas, are recognized as the earliest documented literature of mankind. It is affirmed that the Vedas are the very first Hindu scriptures, but the flow of the written word would never stop in Hindu philosophy. In the beginning, many spiritual and moral concepts were devised to help man overcome his fears and problems. Initially, this doctrine was called the Manav Dharma, or the preferred duties of mankind. Later, the name Sanatan Dharma, the eternal religion, came to be associated with it and is still very popular in many places. It has also been described as Vedika religion or dharma based on the Vedas. Hindu sages, in fact, perceived religion or dharma in a wide sense. Universal or cosmic religion is called Rita, which denotes order and harmony. Social religion of a community is named as Varna Dharma, which describes the laws governing a section of people according to their customs and culture. And religion of an individual, Swadharma, guides a person to lead life in conformity with one's personal situation. A Hindu is thus prompted to consider the righteous duty, dharma, as a guideline for all his actions. Dharma itself has a wide spectrum of meaning. Literally, it means something that sustains. Religion in Hindu philosophy concerns with rules and regulations that hold the society together. It's based essentially on ethical considerations so that we may hold and nurture each other. Without the ethical principles, the society would fall apart, hurting and destroying each other in the process. Thus, dharma is closely linked to its application in everyday life. In Hindu philosophy, dharma has come to uphold the cause of righteousness and moral duty. Until the 14th century, none of the earlier six texts have any mention of the word Hindu. Hindu was first mentioned in the 15th century in Persian as a geographical concept in reference to the people and territory across the river Sindhu or Indus. Strangely, the term Hinduism became popular only around the 19th century. The concept of Hinduism thus has grown out of mergence and union of many sects and cultures of different origins, joining together with greater freedom to pursue their individual customs, manners, practices, and languages. It's like a mighty ocean of thought which has risen from the confluence of many small and large, old and new rivers of philosophy and doctrine. The origin of Hinduism fixedly belongs to India without context. Max Muller also confirms the Vedic religion was the only one, the development of which took place without any extraneous influences. Hinduism was born in the cradle of peace. Religious persecution was rare in this historical growth. Civilizations grow with the manure of peace and cooperation, not in the brutalities of war and bloodshed. There has been some interesting new discoveries regarding the ancient Indian symbol swastika. It is now regarded as much older than believed previously, older than the Aryans and even the Sindhu-Saraswati civilization. The researchers say that swastika dates back to at least 11,000 years. In tracking the antiquity of swastika, the researchers came up to a staggering discovery that the Rig Veda, generally associated with the Aryan civilization, existed much before that, dating back to the pre-Harappan times in the form of the Shruti that are orally handed down through the Sindhu-Saraswati civilization. With the passage of time over millennia, the swastika did travel across many countries in Asia and Europe. Its use by Hitler, however, as anti-Semitic weapon of destruction bears no relation to the original Indian symbol of peace and auspiciousness. There has been some debate regarding the origin of Aryans. Previously, some historians claim that the Aryans came to India around 1500 BCE and indirectly also credited the origin of the Vedas to these sources. New evidences have now established that Aryan is originally a Sanskrit word meaning noble and indicates more cultural people among the general population residing in Indian subcontinent. Later, some of them went out of India to propagate their spiritual knowledge to the other lands. In the late 19th and early 20th century, Nazi ideology in Germany adopted Aryan name for its inhabitants, the Nordic people, to emphasize their pure and superior culture. The master race and anti-Semitic attitude of the Nazi Aryan name has no bearing whatsoever with the Indo-Aryans.